Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness is Egg-Shaped. And today we have a preview of what could possibly be the most important game in recent Scottish rugby playing history. I am very excited to be joined by a head coach, someone who I've known for a very long time, has worn a lot of hats through his rugby career, both as a player and as a coach, and is now leading one of our national teams, hopefully towards a World Cup finals. He is one of life's good guys and always has a cheeky smile and a wee smart arse comment. So I'm looking forward to this very much. Please welcome the one and the only Mr. Bryan Easson. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you? How are you? You got me nervous there.
There's the cheeky smile. I'm looking forward to this, Bernie. It's good to see it. Now, I am currently in Edinburgh, where it's pouring with rain and there's going to be a transport lockdown because we've got a storm coming in. Where on earth are you?
I am certainly not in the rain or the wind, and there's certainly not a transport lockdown. If I look out my window at the moment, I'm seeing 9 lanes of traffic in the middle of Dubai, which is a beautiful place to be. And having heard your weather forecast, it's even better.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. What takes you to Dubai?
Wow, right. It's been a long journey, but we are on the final leg of the World Cup qualifier. So we have got on a week on Friday a game against Colombia or Kazakhstan to qualify for the 2021 year late World Cup in New Zealand. Exciting times.
That is exciting times. Now, there'll be a lot of people, I hope, listening to this who are saying, hang on, Scotland women are playing against Kazakhstan or Colombia in Dubai to qualify for a World Cup in New Zealand. So you need to join up some dots here.
Yeah, so we qualified. So we had the European qualifier in Italy, as you probably in September of last year when we had to beat Spain and Ireland. The South American qualifier that was done previously, and then Colombia had to play Kenya in a playoff, and then the Kazakhstans, they were in the Asian playoff. So that's us. The 3 teams have now got to meet. Unfortunately, there was meant to be a 5-team kind of competition with Hong Kong and Samoa, but as we all know, the world that we're living in at the moment, it was difficult for them to travel. Hong Kong is in lockdown, and a lot of the Samoans are in New Zealand. So look, we're in the situation where we're luckily enough, believe it or not, as a Scottish team, number 1 seed, and we will play the winners of that game next Friday.
Class. And you were supposed to have a game yourselves. You've not got that opportunity. So Kazakhstan play Colombia. You'll obviously have eyes on that. What are you expecting from that game?
Yeah, we'll have eyes on. I'll be there. I'll certainly be there on Saturday. We're going to train Saturday morning, and then myself, the coaches, and the analysts will hang fire and we'll watch that game, get good eyes on everything that they're doing. We haven't seen a lot of them, I'll be honest with you. Colombia they played the Spanish A team last Friday, so I saw that. They played Kenya and they played Brazil a couple of times over the last couple of years. So I've had eyes on that. The Kazakhstan, I've seen them play China. So they played China in a World Cup qualifier as well. As you know, rugby's a small world. Like Snoops, Ian Moynihan's out in Hong Kong, so he's given me a little bit of insight on the Kazakhstan. Louise Dalglish is with Japan, so she's given me a little bit of insight as well. Not got anybody in Colombia, unfortunately, but look, they're both set piece wise pretty good. They're both really physical. And we're expecting a good physical test from both sides. The big thing for me is that physicality tends to last probably for less phases than we've been used to. So it's about us just keeping our calm, keeping our cool, and just doing the things that we have been working on well. So yeah, look, a tough ask.
This is a great squad. I know some of them personally. I've seen some of them in action. The women, I think, are still quite accessible. As people and on social media, we've obviously not been able to get that close contact over the last couple of years, but we've loved watching the progress of this squad. You've now got a real nucleus of senior players, but some of your inexperienced players have got a decent number of caps as well, so you must be feeling confident.
Yeah, look, they've worked. I think COVID's been a nightmare, right? We all know that, and that's not just from a rugby point of view, it's just from everybody's day-to-day lives. But COVID, believe it or not, has probably helped rather than hindered us because we've been able to have time together. We've been really lucky in that we've had that elite sport exemption, so we've been able to train. And then it's a really good point you make, Bruce, is that where we are, we've got a lot of really good senior players, but the youngsters and maybe the inexperienced ones are really coming on. I don't like highlighting players, but we were talking earlier on. CB Christine Belial, who's moved to tight head, she's been a revelation in that position. You got young Evie Gallagher coming in, and she's pushing Jade really hard. She's a really strong individual who's worked really hard. You've got Shona Campbell, a wing come fullback who was in the GB squad when they went to Canada in the World Series recently. Evie Wells, who's been capped at 12. You could go on and on about the young players that are coming through. So it's great because these I'm not going to say old heads. That's what you were trying to tell. That's what you were trying to get me to say. These more experienced players, that was the phrase I was looking for, are having to work really hard to keep their position, and that's what we want. Is you look at Emma Wassell, who got her 50th cap against Ireland. She's played 50 to going in potentially 51 consecutive games. It's great that that's happened, but we don't really want that to happen long term. We want players to be pushed and players to take positions of players if they're not performing as well as they can. So that's the challenge over the next few years, but it's coming.
Your preparations have been challenging because COVID, obviously, but then you have somebody like Jade who has to get on with life as well and had to take some time out of rugby. She was quite a miss during the Six Nations, but it must have been like getting a fresh player when she comes back into the squad.
Yeah, it's a good point you make because she's actually had a new lease at life. She's now gone into the fire service in London, so she's in the Blue Watch or whatever you call it. She's loving life, but I think what that's done to her, it's taken probably the pressure away from her because she was full-time rugby, but she felt that it was something that she wanted to pursue, and she's had a new lease of life. She was excellent in the qualifiers, excellent against Japan, and she's in a really good space. So it was like having a new player back, but as we say that Evie Gallagher has been in there as well, and she's been outstanding. So it's great to have the opportunity to have Evie there, but it's brilliant to have Jade back. She is an experienced player, and she carries the ball more than anybody I know, and she just goes again and again and again.
And they love her at Harlequins as well for that, don't they? She's made herself an absolute stalwart in that team.
She does. I mean, and she does it week in, week out. And it's you get players like that who you get some coaches who will say, right, we'll use her as a dummy or we'll use her as a a decoy or whatever. I'm not gonna be. I'm just gonna be honest and say, nah, chuck her up, just keep her going, because the game nowadays is about gain line, and if you can get gain line and momentum in your game, you're laughing. And one thing Jade will do is give you gain line.
It was the game against Ireland. I mean, that was just. I mean, as a coach, then you're powerless, aren't you? All your work is done. You're into that final phase of the game, and what were you like? Were you calm? Were you off your seat? Were you biting your nails? What was that like?
Well, you know me, Bruce. You said in your introduction to me, you've known me for years, and I used to have long hair and like long flowing locks. And look what happened in a month. It's just it went away. It was brutal. I was like a duck. I kind of like to keep that calm exterior, but above the water I was fine. Underneath I was paddling like hell. It was tough because the Irish were trying to do anything they could to win the ball back. 2 minutes to go, you watched the game, 2 minutes to go, and Tomo will hate me for saying this, but Tomo had a penalty to kick to the corner to get a line out 5 metres out and missed touch. She went too far. And I'm sitting with Tyrone, our coach, and the assistant coach, and he was head in his hands. I said, look, believe it or not, actually with 2 minutes to go, I said, we've got another chance. They're going to drop out to us, and we've got another chance, but we're going to have to keep the ball. And 19 phases we kept it for, and Chloe, as we all know, scored in the corner. But and rightly, Chloe's had a lot of plaudits, and Slaw's had a lot of plaudits for kicking that goal. You'd have missed it. I'd have missed it.
100%.
I'd have missed it.
I would have pushed it right.
I wouldn't even have kicked it. I'd have said my hamstring was a bit tight and give it to somebody else. But they're getting, and rightly so, are getting the plaudits. But if you look at all the phases before it, every single player has been involved in a massive part of that game, whether it was carrying, whether it was latching, whether it was winning the contact, whether it was the ball presentation on the floor, whether it was making a take and give pass off your left hand. There was so much in that, and that's probably the most pleasing thing as a coach. Great to see the plaudits that are given to Chloe and Slaw, but everybody's got to take it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Now I was announcing it at Dam Health, and I got it through, and I couldn't wait and for a lull in the game to announce it, and I built it up, and I left a massive delay, and I said Ireland 20, and I left a huge delay, then said Scotland 22, and the roof came off the place. It was and they must have, I think there was 6,500 there that night or something. It was brilliant. The atmosphere.
Somebody sent me that clip, and it was brilliant. It was just outstanding. I actually had a few people said to me that they were at the game and said it was probably the biggest cheer of the game. And
yeah,
it's look, it was brilliant because up until it's not until you start looking at it you think that was a World Cup. That's these girls have been working since 2000. Some of them played in the 2013 qualifier that they lost, and some of them, more of them, played in 2017. So to be in the position where, and look, it was the same against Spain the week before. We had to defend Spain to keep them out the last minute. So we did the same against Spain, and then we had to do against Ireland. So, it might have looked calm, but my God, it was brutal.
But those experiences going into this now, you're surely stronger for it mentally, emotionally, but also skill under pressure. The girls, I shouldn't call them girls, the women must be feeling a huge amount of confidence going into this game.
Yeah, and they do, and they should, and so they should as well. And that's and that's testament to them, testament to the hard work that they put in the gym, at training, coming to camps, weekly camps, and all that kind of stuff. But we use belief is one of the words that we use. We did quite a bit of work with the girls about 18 months ago, or the women about 18 months ago, just talking about. We did a thing called a pre-mortem, which is about a pre-mortem. A pre-mortem is something you actually give a question and you say to them about something that hasn't happened. But so the question was, we have not qualified for the World Cup. Why? So they had to look at and give us reasons why they hadn't qualified. So they dug into that, and out of that we came up with team first. So they felt they wouldn't qualify if people were just doing things on their own. So they came up with team first. They came up with belief, because they used to talk about other teams. They used to talk about opposition rather than themselves. So they came up with belief. And the other one was expert in detail. They felt as if they hadn't done enough work on their own and they hadn't done enough analysis. So they were the three kind of things that they came up with. And belief is the one that we talk about a lot. So because of the way they've played and because of beating teams that are above us in the world rankings, they should believe. Interestingly, though, is complacency is a word that we've talked about as well, because I think complacency is a disease. That's an Alex Ferguson phrase, by the way. He talks about that. Complacency is a disease. And we had the worst 20 minutes of my tenure against Japan when they were down to 14 players. They thought the game was won.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best 20 minutes preparation that we have for this World Cup, because you just look at that, they just thought the game was won and that was over. And if they do that against Colombia or Kazakhstan, we'll be out. So that's been good.
So let's rewind the tape. There's no way you could have been coming out of the game and going into coaching thinking that in a few years' time I'll be the head coach of Scotland women as a professional coach, taking them to Dubai to play a qualifier against Kazakhstan. I mean, you can't predict that. You got involved in the women's team, and then you've become the head coach. What was the motivation to becoming the head coach? What was it that gave you the spark that thought, I can't wait to get into this?
That's a really good question. So about 2 years ago, I remember Scott Johnson, who was director of rugby at the time, asked me to come in, and he had a proposal, and he asked me to be involved in the women's team. I can't say online what my reply was, because it was not something I'd ever thought about, and it wasn't something I'd ever done. But got into it, and you know what? It's probably the most fulfilling job I've ever had. The work ethic, their maturity, but they just want to be better, get better at every single session is just, it's just outstanding. So as a coach, it's probably the most enjoyable coaching job I've ever had, because you can see the progress, but you see them wanting to get better. So it's not just me forcing it on them, it's them forcing it on me as well. They ask why all the time, and they want to know why they're doing stuff. They want to get better. So would I recommend it to any coach? 100%.
Yeah, it fascinates me, absolutely fascinates me. But the challenges are different because you were in the professional environment where players were available. You've now got this kind of funny mixture of people who have a full-time job but give rugby full-time attention. You've got full-time players, you've got players in different leagues, you've got players that are under your nose in the city of Edinburgh, but the standard is not that of, that they're playing and training in weekly to compete against an England or an Ireland or France at Six Nations. So you must be constantly tracking things, monitoring things, speaking to people. There must be so many little conversations that nobody's ever going to see on social media or on a match day that matter.
Nah, it's a really busy job. I'll be honest with you. I think ask Carlin, she would tell you it's it's a really busy job. It's full on. It's, it'll be 12 hours a day job, easy, and then there's weekend works on top of that. We've got 18 players down south now playing in the Alliance Premiership, which is brilliant, because the level of rugby they're playing week in and week out is just it's so much better for them at the moment. But what we plan to do is obviously try and get that level of rugby in Scotland. You're right then to say that the players are not playing in England, they're up here. So what we do is we'll train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday with them. But then obviously when they're with their clubs, they'll be with their clubs on a Thursday and then play on a Saturday or a Sunday. So yeah, there's a lot of discussions to be had. Really good relationships with coaches down south. So like Joe Yapp at Worcester, Susie Appleby at Exeter, Katie Daly-McLean at Sale. There's some great people, some really good eggs in there. And in fact, Joe Yapp was the one that highlighted Katie Mattinson to me, our new scrum half, who had 7 caps for England. And that was out of the discussion with Joe. So it's busy, but it's, as I say, it's really fulfilling.
And some of those players are coming now with their own experience, so that they must now be able to contribute to some of what you're up to.
Oh yeah, totally. So like I'll have an attack group. So I've got an attack group I work with. Tyrone will have a defence group. There's a line-out group. Like I was pulling together my kind of playbook for just this game. I always have a playbook for a game. Always try and add something or take something away, just depending on the opposition. But I'll run it. I'll sit with those leaders, or I'll sit with the attack group, and we'll go through it. And there'll be times they'll say, "Nah, I think we should do this," or "I think we should do that." And that's what we want is to have a voice, as players to have a voice, players to discuss, players to challenge me as well, because I want to get better on a daily basis. So they'll challenge me as well, and it's a really, I think it's a really healthy environment that they can come to me and say, "Nah, I don't agree with that," or "Why don't we try this? We've tried this against this team before, it didn't work, so can we maybe try it this way?" So it's a really positive thing for me that we can have those players doing that. There's some really sharp rugby players and some sharp rugby brains in here that will obviously watch a lot of rugby. So no, it's great.
And the players must be good satellites for you as well, to be speaking to somebody and say, you should have a look at this player. Here's somebody you should keep an eye on. Their spread is obviously much greater than one man can have, even if you've got videos, footage of them. Are they quite good at recommending other people to you?
Emma Wassell's never recommended another Saint Road to me. Yeah, they do. And the positive thing is they'll say, "Look, there's a girl here that I think she's Scottish. Could you maybe look into it?" And we've got some really good links, like Kelly Brown, for example. Kelly's been brilliant with me with the Saracens girls, so he knows there's a couple of Scottish girls in there that we're trying to speak to down there. A club like Worcester, you've got Suz and you've got Duhan and all. You kind of speak to them and just say, look, go in and have a wee look and see what you can find, and just using the contacts that I've got and as well. But the players have been really good. They've been, because they want to become the best they can be, and obviously long term, we want to keep pushing and we want to keep pushing up the world rankings and do what is possible. But at the moment, it's just all about this game on next Friday.
How do the players that got to go to the Olympics, what have they brought back? What have they added with that experience?
Well, first of all, what an experience. I mean, what just a remarkable opportunity for them to go to an Olympics, to then have a potential to go to a World Cup. There's Commonwealth Games this year as well. So, I mean, some of these players could go to an Olympics, a Commonwealth Games, and a World Cup in one short space of time. The only thing I said to them is the Commonwealth Games is it's in Birmingham. So, like they're going Tokyo, Auckland, and Birmingham. But I think what the Olympic experience gave to them, and having spoken to them, is probably goes back to the word belief again. I think they see the players that play for England or Wales, that they're the same as them. You look at Hannah and Tomo. They come back and they say, well, why are we worried about these players? The players that are playing in England are playing with, the Loughborough girls are playing with Emily Scarrett and Sarah Hunters and, all these players week in, week out. Yeah, they're good rugby players, but they're no different. And we've just got to keep pushing the envelope and make our basics better.
So you're the national coach, but you're well known around these parts, and you've been in clubs, and you've got your finger on the pulse. There's some brilliance that, I mean, Stirling County girls are the process they've got there, the access they're giving those girls to rugby, and now some of them are really beginning to come through. I spoke to Tamara Taylor, and she said she didn't have to see it to believe it. She just did lots of things. But I've heard others say we need to see so we can believe. Do your players realise the role they've got in that now?
Yeah, they do. They're doing an awful lot more around just getting out and about and doing player appearances and all these kind of things. I had a night at Dam Health a few weeks ago. You were speaking, unfortunately, but anyway, that let's put that to the side. But Ranks was there, and you see Ranks all the time, Ian Rankin, and he'd been asked to go and do a session up at Howe of Fife.
Yeah.
And he said he was doing a boys' session. There was a girls' session going on, and he said it was a real eye opener. Not just because of the skills, he said, but it was. He said girls were calling themselves, "I want to be Chloe Rowley. I want to be Emma Wassell. I want to be."
Yeah.
And the fact that they're using these players' names is just brilliant. I think it's, and they can build a legacy. A legacy is about. It's not about the individual. It's about the jersey, and it's about Scotland women. But the fact that they're on TV, and the fact they're live on TV, and the fact that they're playing England live on BBC, and this game next Friday's live, and I think it's great. I think it's brilliant. But they do understand how important that they are.
It's interesting, and I know what you mean about Birmingham, but I think there's an amazing chance there for them to get to do something almost in their own backyard. The World Cup's far away, the Olympics was far away, but to have people there in the flesh experiencing it, that's the good stuff. I mean, how excited are you when you think, right, Six Nations coming up, we could have a bundle of people in these stands here watching? That's going to be a massive signal to the growth of the game.
Hugely. And I think Dam Health was brilliant, that Japan game, when we played the Japan game there, just to see that stand full, to see the walkway between the changing rooms to the ground is brilliant. I mean, at the end of the game, it was great to see the players, just people want photographs, and there was a good crowd there. But the England game, genuinely, there's no reason why we just can't pack that place out, because one, they're playing good rugby. It's really good to watch. The spectacle's really good. But two, on the back of, obviously, next Friday, if we qualify for this World Cup, it's a really good news story. So come and watch it, and because it's actually really good to watch. And you and I were talking before we came online. The game is a little bit different, and the only reason it's different is probably because there's less kicking. So because there's less kicking, there's actually more attacking play, and it's probably, in terms of a spectacle, it's pretty good.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I was gutted with that Japan game. I had COVID. My girls were wanting to come, and I wasn't allowed out. It was absolutely gutted. But I watched it on the TV, and Louise Dalglish out in Japan, like you said, we've got Rona overseas, we've got players down south. I mean, Scottish players now are really being thought of in high regard.
Yeah, they are, and it's really interesting having spoken to Louise as well when they did their analysis and stuff like that on us. They they say they're beginning to know our players, and our players are getting known from other countries as well. And Rona playing the way that she does in France, week in and week out, scoring tries for fun. Yeah, it's just great. Chloe's been in France, Tomo's been in France. They're getting really good experiences. Whether and they're all getting out, and some of them, as I say, some of them have been in Tokyo, could go to New Zealand, playing in France, playing in, what a life they've got at the moment. It's great.
And so many of them must be looking to you for some guidance, though. What do you think about this? There's an opportunity coming up. How much pastoral support are you giving to the players?
As much as I can. They know that it's an open door. So yeah, I do get asked a lot, and like, what do you think of this? How do you think this will suit my career? Ultimately, it's their decision, but I will give as much advice as I need to. I'm obviously a dad myself, so I kind of, you can put that hat on. I know you say I've got loads of different hats, and you're right. And as a coach, you've got a different hat on all the time. It's whether it's pastoral care, whether it's coaching, whether it's listening, a father, a friend. There's all these kind of hats you have to put on. But yeah, they ask a lot, which is, for me as a coach, for me as an individual, you take that and say, look, they obviously trust you, because trust is massive in coaching, isn't it? If they trust you, it's half the battle.
So the challenge of playing in Dubai for a Scottish team, I mean, they've come out of a Scottish winter. They're into Dubai to play a game that matters a lot. How do you prepare for that?
We've prepared for it I suppose, since January. And look, we've been preparing since we played Ireland. So it's been on the horizon since we played Ireland. The Japan game was based around this. But in terms of the heat strategies, we were really lucky. We've got a new head of sports science, guy called Francesco Sella. Francesco is an Italian. Frank, we call him. Frank is a great guy. Frank is he's worked with the New Zealand Sevens, men and women, so he's been involved in that. He's doing PhD in women's sport, so he's got his head on that. But where we really have got it is Rachel Malcolm did her PhD in heat strategy. So
brilliant.
Rachel is on it. So Rachel has got a doctorate.
Well done, Dr. Malcolm.
Exactly. Dr. Malcolm has been on the pulse. It's been brilliant. So at Orium, which is brilliant. So Orium, as you all know, the training centre is brilliant. But so we had weekends. So we trained a lot through the week, but full weekends. They've got the pool. They've got the swimming pool at Orium, and so it starts in the morning. They heat it up, so it's heated to bath heat. So once we finish, we get them in the bath, and they've now got saunas at Orium. So the girls have been up nightly in the sauna. They've got to have, even when they're here, they've got to have a hot bath, like a hot bath every day, just acclimatise as much as possible. So we may have blue skin, but we'll be acclimatised. We'll be fine.
Lisa Thompson will be loving all these hot baths. Being for Hoyk, she would have been in the old tin bath at the back garden.
She's having a great time. Tomo, never seen her. Where's Tomo for training? She's in the bath.
Class. Now, before we get the last little bit, I'm keen to ask you. You've played a huge role in the development and the career of a lot of players, but I know you're really close to Stuart Hogg. You've seen Hoggy. I did see it at Christmas, and there was an amazing thing where the coaches through Hoggy's career got to go to an event, and he was able to say thank you. And obviously, you were there, and you're still very close to him. Where do you see that going with female rugby players, can you see a female rugby player reaching the heights that somebody Stuart Hogg has?
Yeah, of course I can, because like knowing Hoggy, I've known Hoggy since he was 14, and you just see the progress that they make. Hopefully they don't drink red wine like he does. But they can't. Like the one thing with Hoggy, the reason he's one of the best in the world is because of his work ethic. So like people don't see what Hoggy will do off the field, like the red light treatment, for example, in his room to help him sleep, and all the kind of the food he'll eat, the work that he does in terms of his stretching, his rehab, his prehab. But working with this group of women here, they do exactly the same. You'll see them doing their extras. They'll ask for extras. They'll be in the gym for longer. They'll be, they've got all these little, whether it's traveling, whether it's wearing the leggings for traveling to make sure that they've got the right compression. They're traveling to Dubai with them in compression tights on. It's roasting here, and they've all got these compression tights on, not really caring about how they feel, but it's about performance. So, yeah, I think people like Stuart, people like Emma or Rachel or whoever it is, it's that same work ethic, and that's what gets you to the top.
No,
natural talent helps as well.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. The Chloe Rowley, geez, that she can shift. It'd be nice to see her open up in Dubai.
She could beat you in a phone box.
Oh, I wouldn't get near her. I love watching when she gets a little bit of space. You can see when the ball's kicked her, she's a bit like Hoggy. You can just see the eyes light up and she's ready to go, and the feet start going.
But it's really interesting, Chloe. I mean, same kind of mindset. I just want to attack, and they just get excited to attack, and she'd beat you and me. I mean, geez, we'd never have a chance. I mean, even in our comp, we would never have a chance.
But there's.
Yeah, you're the only 10 that I would probably had a race with. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Funeral Mark Aitchison. Yeah, I've heard it all before. But there's something exciting about that, though. You watch the game, and there's a lot of people still don't give it any credit. Never mind the credit it deserves. They give it no credit. And the standard is, it's an international elite sport. There's no question.
No question, and it's getting better. It's getting better all the time. I think you just need to look at ball and play time, or the way that the games go, and the skill level, the skill under pressure. We've already talked about that last minute against Ireland. 18, 19 phases under pressure against a team that's trying to do anything to get the ball. The skill level is really high, and having exciting players like Chloe and Tomo and all these players that you've got, they just want to get the ball in hand. But what they're also getting better at is, one, the maturity around the game. They're not just playing from their own line anymore. They've got the license to go from their own line if it's on, but their game management now is getting so much better. So there is more energy to attack and attack and attack for longer in the game.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'll let you get away for your hot bath.
I don't need that. I'm not. I've got
you
somewhere.
Bernie, thank you. It's been brilliant speaking to you. All the very best. I can't wait. I think we'll be watching online to see how it goes. I'm really excited to see it, and wish you and the team all the best. Please pass on that to all of them, and I'll see you back at the Dam Health for the England game.
We'll see you at the Dam Health. Happiness at egg shape, Bruce. See you soon, pal.
That's my boy. Cheers, Bernie. All the best.
See you. Cheers, buddy. Cheers.
Absolutely love it. Bryan Easson, what a man, and I am absolutely behind him. I can't wait to see it. He's worked really hard. That group have worked hard. They're accessible on social media. I know it's a tiny window into life, but they just look like they're happy and enjoying things. And if they can keep that going, there's a World Cup beckoning. There's also a Six Nations with a couple of big games at home, and I hope to be there to see them. If you've enjoyed this, you can catch us on Apple, Acast, and Spotify. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube. Come on, Scotland. In the meantime, my name is Bruce Aitchison, and my happiness is egg-shaped. I look forward to speaking to you all again very, very soon.